If you're an energy healer who is having trouble sleeping and feels very overwhelmed and overstimulated, you might have a spiritual gift that is online in your field that you are unaware of, that is the root of those things. So I'm going to explain a session that I just had with my client in her Akashic records in case it supports you on your journey as well. I went into her field. I asked if I could do an energetic scan over her astral body, and she said yes. And so I'm running my hands over her head and her shoulders and her chest. And when I got to her solar plexus, I could tell that there was an imbalance in there, or something wasn't running correctly. And so I astral projected into that chakra. And this is when I came out to the gates of the underworld in Egyptian mythology. And I was like, what the heck is going on here? And I asked Osiris and Anubis, who are caretakers, watchers of the underworld, to come forward so I could ask them what was going on. And they said that she, my client, is a passage keeper. I said, well, what does that mean? It is a form of mediumship. She is able to see through the veil at persons who have baggage. She can see all of the energetic cords. This is soul fragments of people who have passed on to the other side. They're already in their other incarnation, but because they have unresolved business, trauma, or maybe the human that they are connected to that is still on this plane has not forgiven them or has not made peace about something. So there are cords that are still running that need to be healed. This is often what people refer to as ghosts. It's not exactly the same, but for the context, we'll say the ghosties. The reason that she was having trouble sleeping is because right before we go to sleep and while we are asleep, our subconscious and our channels are super open to different frequencies and different dimensions, especially if you are a proficient channeler. You may not even know that you are one yet. What I was explaining to her is, hey, you have been doing this for a very long time in multitudes of incarnations. You, the human that I am talking to, has not made that realization yet. That doesn't mean that you are not an amazing channeler, though. Your consciousness may not be there and recognize that yet, but your higher self and your multidimensional facets, they're already there. That's why your channels are so open to all of these different frequency planes. That happened to me in the beginning of my channeling journey. I was constantly having feedback coming through, and my tools that I had, it's 11:11 on my phone. The tools that I had at that time were not enough to handle what I was receiving. And I was getting very anxious and overstimulated, and I wasn't able to sleep. What I said over my field was, I'm not open for business. The only thing that I want to perceive within other people are their higher self, their inner children, and different incarnations, if those different incarnations are mentors. Because when you're an open channeler, you can have different lifetimes from people that are trying to speak to you because you are an open channeler, and they need a lot of trauma work. A lot of soul healing, and maybe that's not the chapter that you're in right now. And when we start talking about ghosties or soul fragments of people that haven't quite all the way moved on yet, or different incarnations, that's getting really high up in the Akasha fields, and it's going to make you feel even more ungrounded because it's a much higher frequency. When we are working with people's higher selves or their inner children, much denser, much closer to our now experience, easier to work with. I told her that because you can perceive them, they can also perceive you through the veil. So they are coming into your field and saying, oh, she can hear me, she can see me, even if the human is not conscientiously aware yet. And I said, on top of that, because I gave her a reading last year where I told her that she has the ability of time travel, where she can astral project into different timelines. With these soul fragments that are kind of stuck here, when she is going about her day in her regular 3D life and communicating with like friends and family members, she's energetically reading the human in front of her, but without knowing it, she's also seeing way too much of this person's Akashic field. And all of the energetic cords that are tied to past loved ones or ancestors. Then those spirits are like, oh my gosh, I have found an energy healer who can perceive me. And then they are knocking at your channeling door. And if you do not have the tools yet to interpret or understand that information, it's just going to come through as anxiety and overwhelm. And it's also going to make you not want to get further into that channeling and spiritual work. What my recommendation is to, one, go on and look up the gates to the underworld. Okay, this is just symbolism. What I told her, I was like, you don't actually have that in your chakra system. It's just so your higher self can showcase to you the schematics of what is happening. But you can go on and look up the gates, because that is a representor of the portal into the frequency plane where the soul fragments are existing. And you, before you go to bed, we're going to say the gates are closed. I am not open for business. We are closing them. And I am only open to receive information from people's higher selves. That's it. That's where I first started. Higher selves are already on a much more evolved, conscientious plane. Okay? They're much more aware and coming from deeper levels of compassion and love. They're much easier to connect with and work with. I said that's even easier than people's inner children, because when we get into inner child work, there's a lot of trauma, behavioral patterns, wounds. And as empaths, sometimes we are giving people too much grace because we can see their inner children. We say, oh, I know you have like all these wounds within you, so I'm just going to overlook and bypass over what this adult human is doing to me. When we're not meant to be everybody's healers, and not everybody is going to meet you on the plane as their higher self would. Because that's another thing. You might be talking to their higher self and falling in love with their potential, but everybody has free will. And not everybody is connected to their inner children and their higher self, nor do they want to. And so just because you can see that within people does not mean that it's your responsibility or that they are going to meet you how you want them to. Okay, so I recommend we're only having open channels to people's higher selves. Or Mother Gaia, unicorns, dragons, fairies, whatever makes you feel safe and comfortable. But if you are not necessarily ready to get into mediumship yet and start working with soul fragments, because you need to work on your interpretation skills and feeling more grounded in your body and being more clear about when you have open and closed hours for channeling, it's okay to set the parameters of, I'm just working with people's higher selves. I'm just working with unicorns. I'm just working with Mother Gaia. And then that is all that you will pull through your fields, because you are a sovereign being and you get to decide what comes into your channel network. If you like the Egyptian reference with the gates to the underworld, which is just really helping souls pass on, you can ask Anubis or Osiris, the Egyptian deities, to be watchers of that gate for you and say, don't let anything come through until I say so. And just because you close the gates now doesn't mean that you won't be able to open them in the future. It's just when you energetically feel ready to do so. If you would like a personal reading where I go into your energy field to see what is going on with your schematics and Akashic records, you can find that information in my bio or in the comments. I would love to hear what your biggest takeaway is, and I'm wishing you a very magical day.